guys, it's Ty, aka Timberlands, and I am back with another pregnancy update. So I'm gonna be recapping week 38 and week 39. This video is probably gonna be pretty long, so I'm gonna likely break it up into two parts just because there's been a lot happening. So let's get started. So week 38, the baby is about the size of a mini watermelon, weighs about 7 pounds, and is about 19 to 20 inches long. All right, week 38, there was a lot of symptoms. So at week 38, I started to experience what is called prodromal labor, which is like pre-labor. And unfortunately, prodromal labor can last for weeks at a time. And so that particular week, I stopped working just because I had a lot of discomfort that was starting to pick up, and it just wasn't really feasible for me to get through the work day. So I worked most of the week, and then toward like Thursday, Friday, I went ahead and just was like, okay, I can't, I'm having like a lot of pre-labor symptoms. I can't really work anymore at this point without it interrupting my workday. So week 38, I started to expel a lot of my mucus plug. And as I said in a previous video, your mucus plug can regenerate. So it's like kind of like a constant production, but it's something that kind of started picking up toward the end of that week. I also started experiencing Braxton Hicks that were followed by cramps. So they feel pretty much like period cramps. They're dull, low, and they can linger. They can go right away. It just kind of depends. But there was just a lot of discomfort. And I reached out to my midwife one day because I was having Braxton Hicks like back to back. Some of them were painful and some of them were not. So she told me to monitor them, and they were really picking up in regularity. But of course, we couldn't make any moves until they were actually like consistent, like in growing in intensity as well as like frequency. So at that point, I was just kind of monitoring. She monitored me over the weekend, and they really didn't start to become regular or more intense. And so with that being the case, it was just some early stuff starting up, and just something that I had to look out for. So she continued to monitor me throughout the weekend, and they weren't picking up in frequency and intensity. They would space out, they would come back together, they would be painless, they would be painful. So it just wasn't consistent enough to call it active labor. Week 38 was just a lot of discomfort. So week 38 as well, just on a more personal side, was the week following the winter storm that we had. And so I was just kind of getting back into work. And like I said before, that is the week that I stopped working. But I was trying to work through the discomfort, but it just wasn't working. So that week was kind of like, the week was a little bit stressful just because it was like I was trying to get back to work. We just got through with the winter storm and everything, and now I'm having all these uncomfortable symptoms. So I was just like, well, I just gotta have to deal with it the best that I can. So week 39, this is where all the action happened, and probably what's gonna take up the majority of this video. So week 39, the baby is about the size of a honeydew melon, weighs anywhere from 7 to 8 pounds, and is about 19 to 21 inches long. Again, I've mentioned this multiple times, but these measurements are from the What to Expect app. And of course, every baby is different. So these are just averages. But like I said in a previous video, at this point, the baby doesn't really grow in length anymore. So that average range pretty much stays the same. give or take a few inches with where it was a few weeks ago. But at this point, this is like the stretch, the home stretch. So week 39 for me was very, it was very active. There's a lot of stuff going on with my body this particular week. Whenever I got to 39 weeks, I started having okay, so this is the thing. You have Braxton Hicks, and then you have true labor, or like true contractions. And the difference is that Braxton Hicks are typically painless. They don't increase in intensity or regularity, and they don't cause dilation. So with Braxton Hicks, it is just the tightening of the uterus. It's like practice, but it does not make your cervix dilate. Okay. And then you have contractions that do that, like the true contractions or true labor, however you want to put it. It can be anywhere from painless to painful, and they're usually longer, and they do have some type of impact on the cervix. So once I got into week 39, I noticed that the contractions were a lot different, especially for me having irritable uterus. I'm very used to the sensation of a Braxton Hicks and how long it lasts and when it goes away and all that kind of stuff like that. But these contractions were a little different in intensity, pain level, and also some other symptoms that came along with it. With these particular contractions, they were often followed by lightning crotch. and they were, like I said, they were more intense. And so I was having them very sporadically. Like, they weren't consistent at all, and they would come and go, but they're very uncomfortable. And I had to find myself breathing through them, like taking a kind of a pause, because one of the differences is with Braxton Hicks, you can talk through them. With like more intense contractions, you can't really talk through them. So I found myself having to take a pause and trying to catch my breath because they're very uncomfortable. Wednesday of week 39, I had an appointment with my midwife, and at this appointment, we were planning to do a membrane sweep. So if you don't know what a membrane sweep is, it is basically when your provider inserts like 2 fingers, check the cervix, and then they go around the amniotic sac and kind of the inner part of the cervix. And what it'll do is in some cases, it'll irritate it'll separate the bag from the cervix, irritate the lining, and then in some cases, for some women, it will kind of encourage labor. But just as a caveat, if the body is not ready to go into labor, it is not going to go into labor. So it's pretty much like shaking a fruit tree and seeing if one of the fruit fall, type of thing. Usually, if it does work, it usually works within like 48 hours. So that time frame is like a monitoring time frame just to see if anything picks up. Now, when I got my membrane sweep, my midwife let me know that I was 80% effaced and 1 centimeter dilated. So effacement is basically thinning of the cervix. So my cervix was almost paper thin, like almost a week ago. And the dilation, of course, is the opening. So I was like a fingertip open. And also she said that my cervix and the baby was very low in front. So when she reached up there, it wasn't very long before she actually could feel the baby's head. This was the optimal position to be in as far as like the membrane sweep having some type of effect. It was kind of exciting, but also a little nerve-wracking, and also like it still might not work. So from Wednesday until Friday was when we were monitoring me for, possibly going into active labor. Wednesday night, Thursday night, I would have very intense contractions that were pretty painful. My goal was just to sleep through some of them, but some of them woke me out of my sleep. And they were pretty consistent throughout the night. But the issue was when the day came, they would die. So it was just like I had them at night, but during the day, I didn't really have consistent painful contractions. They were mostly Braxton Hicks. And so my midwife wanted to just check me again to see what was going on. So Friday, I got another check, and I was about 3 centimeters dilated at the time and almost completely effaced. So what I will say is that we did have some progress. So from Wednesday to Friday, I had quite a bit of progress, which was nice. Basically, once the weekend came around, like a lot of the symptoms died out. And so it seemed like we were kind of inching in the right direction, but my body just wasn't ready yet. So essentially, like, things kind of calmed down and went back to normal. Week 39 was like a tease. It was a huge tease. And I think that my anxiety started to kind of take over a little bit. So I really just had to stop talking to people. I had to like get off of the internet, like, because it was just, I was like, I don't even know what's going on at this point. Like, my body doesn't want to go into labor. But it does. Like, I don't know.